Embrace the darkness, Jackie.
Hello there, Sir from 17 once again, introducing you to my The Darkness 2 Dawn Difficulty video walkthrough. This is the final section to Chapter 4, Q&A. So after we've just taken out the boss, Swifty, we're going to be well, I say taking him out, we've took his crane out, we're still chasing him down, but we're going to be moving through some warehouses to finally corner the little scoundrel and take him out. And this is one of the more interesting sections of the game, because what's going to happen is every so often there are these little flashback moments / illusions that the darkness gives you featuring Jenny, and some of them are awesome, and a lot of them have achievements linked to them if you know how to do them. And that scene there is a beautiful scene because it's all nice and wispy, and it looks almost too colourful, like it's a dream state, and as soon as you push through the door when you're following her, it just wipes and the colour desaturates and it goes back to the grungy reality, and it's such a fantastic transition. I really enjoyed that moment, and there's a lot of sections with Jenny where you do some dances, you get to hug her and things, and they are quite, nice emotional moments, especially when there's kind of a big payoff towards the end, which, if you've read the comics, you'll get a lovely knowing wink, because something's going to happen that you'll know all about if you're a fan of the literature, basically. But there's a couple of cool sections with Jenny, and I did appreciate them, because I do like, the peaks and valley that this game introduces, and a lot of games these days do not get their pacing correct. They do a fucking disservice to their own game by having bad pacing. And that right there is a mechanic you're going to be seeing through the rest of the game from now on. Any light that you can't shoot out is generally attached to some kind of generator. If it's on the ground and it's focused at you. If it's on a wall, it's probably just being a bastard. But if it's a generator like this, you have to smash the generators. You can do it with your whips, with your snakes, or you can shoot them. It's entirely up to you. Something else as well I didn't mention is when you pick a guy up before you execute them, there's a couple of seconds where you're waiting for the prompt to appear. The guy can still shoot you when you've grabbed him, so be careful of that, because they can finish you off, the cheeky bastards like that. But as I was saying, pacing in games these days seems to be ridiculously bad at times. Some developers nail it, some don't. And I was thinking the other day when it came to Metal Gear Solid 2, and Metal Gear Solid 2 has got some of the craziest pacing ever. I think the first one, the original Metal Gear Solid, has probably got the best pacing in any game I've ever played, because it weaves its encounters brilliantly. It starts you off, it's quiet, it's subtle, it faces you with a couple sneaking sections, and then immediately you're thrown into a boss fight. Before you even know where you are, you're fighting a boss. Then after that, there's a bit of a set piece, and then there's another boss. Then there's more sneaking sections, then there's a set piece, then there's more sneaking sections, then there's a boss, then there's a little bit of a puzzle, then there's a boss, and they weave the experience so well that you're always pushing forward and doing something interesting. And what it does is, it makes you forget that you're playing the game because you're so excited at what the next big thing that's going to kick off. And instead of thinking, oh, I'm doing this again, or this has gone on for a while, you're already faced with something different. And I know the cutscenes and all the talking and all that stuff is probably the barrier of entry for a lot of people, but I'm not counting that. I'm counting the gameplay itself, which is admittedly short, but it's crafted in such a way that it's paced perfectly. And the second game was a lot different, because the bosses weren't paced the same, but it still had enough peaks and valleys that you really felt that the game was progressing. You really felt that the high moments were high and the low moments were low, and I liked that about it. And some of the games we play these days just don't have it. And a fantastic example of this is a game that a lot of people hate that I love, and that's Kane and Lynch 2. And the thing with Kane and Lynch 2 for me is, I love the aesthetic, I love the whole crime thing, I love how grungy it is, how dirty it is and all that stuff, but there is a game that had one trick, and that it used that one trick throughout the entire game because it was so afraid to do anything more ambitious, because the first game was full of ambition, and unfortunately it was broken and crappy, and it turned out to be a massive, bite in their ass. And on the podcast that we recorded a while back, I say a while back, it was earlier this week, somebody asked us what games we thought deserved sequels. And I would actually say Kane and Lynch Dog Days, and the reason for this is, I would like to see a Kane and Lynch that had the improvements of the second one, meaning, the cover was better, the shooting actually kind of worked, and the beautiful aesthetic, but with the ambition and the heists of the first game. Because Kane and Lynch 2 was literally run down this corridor, shoot guys, run down this corridor, shoot guys, run down this corridor, shoot guys. That's all it was. The entire game, there was no ups and downs, there was nothing to break it up. It was just that. And by 2/3 into that game, you felt it, and you felt it big time. If they'd have intermingled it with a rails section that wasn't, you know, just the chopper section they had, but, I don't know, maybe a car chase sequence or something, if they'd have put a couple of heists in there, you know, a couple of quiet moments where you were meeting characters and you were planning or doing miscellaneous tasks like interrogations or stuff, and then had downright action levels, heist level, action level, and, you know, just done to that kind of event, because it would have been so much cooler than it was, and it would have alleviated all of the people's problems with it. And in Darkness 2, to bring this back on point, to bring this back to some kind of concise little narrative, is really good at that. Because there's the quiet moments in the asylum, there's the quiet moments in your house, at the funeral, all that good stuff, and then it blows up. And don't get me wrong, there is never really that many on-rail sections aside from that bit at the end. There's a couple of stealth sections that you use the Darkling with, but they don't really mix it up as much as I thought they were going to. And my biggest gripe is the fact that you never go to hell, and don't get me wrong, hell on Darkness 1 was really bad. Who wants to run around a foggy, muddy, dirty looking, you know, expansive wasteland, killing Nazis that got up a couple minutes after you killed them, because they were unkillable and they kept getting revived? It wasn't fun, it wasn't inspiring, but at the same time it was an interesting direction and an interesting opportunity for the narrative. They didn't use it very well, but it was a cool idea. And I would have just liked it to do something similar. And it's the same with the Darklings. Before you had like 3 Darklings, you could control that little penis Darkling that slithered everywhere on ceilings, on walls and stuff, and you used it to, you know, jab people. This game doesn't have anything like that. It's just, you know, pretty standard, and it takes a lot away from it for me. But it's still a solid game. As I use the upgrade tree there to work towards the armour. And I'm not too sure what the armour does, actually, if I'm honest. I appreciate that it works like any armour and that it gives you more, you know, more damage resilience. But the main reason I spec towards it is because it looks amazing. Because you actually see Jackie's hands change, and he looks like Spawn or something like that. It looks so cool, man. It really does. And I was actually thinking the other day of what came first, Spawn or the Darkness, and I haven't Googled it or Wikipedia'd it, which I probably should have and got my answer. Because they're very similar to each other when you look at the comics, because I've read both the comics, and I used to love Spawn, and I used to love the Darkness, but it's one of those things where I just kind of stop reading them sometimes. I kind of phase out on them. But these encounters that you've seen me fighting in these last few rooms, some of them are easier if you just let the enemies come to you because they'll rush you. Some of them are a little bit awkward, like this one here, because you don't have that much cover to shoot these guys, and some of the shooting's not that great. Like this guy here shooting me through the damn floor, that is not cool. You shouldn't be able to shoot through a railing, and I know in real life you probably could, but this is not Operation Flashpoint, this is the Darkness. We do not want realism. We want complete ridiculousness. And there is a melee guy that's about to get wishboned or chest bursted. Like a boss. And you get your life back, and then you can go into cover, pick up some... I thought they were spears then, but they're not. They're just standard stuff. And there's a lovely little headshot. But this game is... I'm trying to think, like... I think on my first time through, I died maybe 4 times. 3 of them were to the boss, the second boss in the graveyard, because he's a dickhead. And on my recording run, I think I died about 2 or 3 times, and I died in different places, in places that I didn't die through on my first run, because I just got sloppy. Like right now, the obvious light is a big mechanic in these games. It's not as big as you think it'd be, because you think it'd be used as puzzles and stuff, and traversal sections. It's generally just there to bug you. And the pad vibrates, the screen completely goes monochrome, and it makes it difficult to actually see where the bloody lights are when you're in the light, which is kind of gay. But always look around the environment, because there's always something to throw, and it saves you so much ammo. I can't even tell you the amount of times it's saved me ammo. And especially if you don't have the ability to get ammo when you execute people, because the Hitman execution is a must if you're going to be shooting people. The irony of this guide is I don't actually buy it, which is kind of stupid, but I just got carried away. And speaking of something I didn't buy as well, the black hole on this game works in a completely different way than it did on the first game, and they've kind of killed it for me. The first game, if you didn't know, it was completely overpowered. The only cost for using it was it completely drained you of all the darkness, and you had to wait a couple seconds for it to come back. But this was a move that if you fired it into a room, it would kill every enemy in the room, and that's all you needed to do for the rest of the game. It was that powerful. And I can understand that the developers of this game didn't want it to, you know, be a win button. They didn't want it to break the game, but they kind of really killed it. And it takes a while to get to it because it's an expensive upgrade. And on my first playthrough, I did spec that way and I got it, and I never used it. Because how you use it on this iteration is, every so often when you kill a guy, instead of him having a heart for you to eat, he has a black hole that you can grab. And this might sound like a good idea to some people because you kill a dude, he drops a dark hole, you throw it at his buddies, you clear a room super quick. And I'm not going to deny that there's a couple of rooms on this game. On my first playthrough I beat them easily because I had the dark hole, and on the recording run they got a little bit rough because I didn't. But in all honesty, I don't think you need it. If you want it, feel free to get it. But you don't need it to survive. And the reason I don't like it is it kind of hinders you more than it helps you, in my opinion. Because you're waiting for a black hole to drop by a guy and they do nothing but drop hearts. But you know, the instant you get to low life, when you need a heart, they'll drop a black hole. And I've not paid enough attention to see whether or not it heals you, but as it stands, I don't think it does. So there are moments where you need a quick heal and you don't get it because you're getting a weapon, and you get killed because you don't have that heal that you needed to survive. And to me, that is self-sabotage, and I wasn't willing to do it on this playthrough, and I didn't. And it's kind of similar with the dual wielding. They killed the dual wielding on this game. I don't like it at all because I don't like how the reticle blooms. I like having complete accuracy over my guns like you did in the first game. This one does not offer it. One thing I will say, if you pick up a shield or a car door, or you get that shield ability, it makes dual wielding very powerful because you can rush forward like a tank and you can mow dudes down. And towards the end of the game, you're going to be in a mansion where Jackie grew up, and they're going to throw room after room full of guys at you. And I actually did that section on my first playthrough with double Desert Eagles, and I've got to say, they destroyed, they absolutely raped face. But on my guide, I didn't do it that way. I found a couple of cheeky spots to show people some safe tactics, and hopefully that'll be appreciated. But early on, there's not really that much to talk about because it's all standard stuff. It's real simple. Real simple, actually. But I'm in a bit of a conundrum at the moment because I've got a lot of things I want to upload, but I've got to preface this over them. And there's another game that's just come out called Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning, which I'm really looking forward to play. The only problem with it is it's a long-ass game, and I don't know what I'm going to do with it because this is the type of game that generally doesn't need a guide because it's so bloody big and everybody plays it differently. So if I were to make one, I'd play it a completely different way to you, so all my strategies would probably be obsolete unless you followed my playstyle to a T. And nobody wants to do that because it's boring. So I'm thinking maybe I could do a live playthrough of it like I did for Saints Row when I finished the Saints Row one. Or maybe just do like a balls deep like I usually do with games that I don't do guides for. I suppose it all depends on how much I enjoy it or how much people demand it, because people demand a lot of different kind of games. Like, I've got a bunch of requests for Vanquish, but Vanquish is a picky subject because the copywriting on it's a real pain in the arse. And there's just been a delay, I don't know if anybody's heard, for Azura's Wrath, and that's a game that I've been really looking forward to getting a guide for. But what happens is the European version gets delayed for 2 weeks, and there's for absolutely no reason other than apparently the UK market is very random in its performance when it comes to games and purchases. So what the developers are saying is they don't, or the marketing team are saying is they don't have a lot of faith in, you know, the saleability of their game in the UK market, which I understand because, you know, the UK is pretty small, but at the same time they're punishing us as gamers because they're not going to make the same return they would in America because America's like 2,000 times bigger than us. And it's pissed me off. And the main reason it's pissed me off is because I want to play that game. But secondly, I wanted to do the guide as quick as I can and get it up on YouTube so it can do the most work for me. And I'm going to be 2 weeks late to the party, so there's already going to be a bunch of guides up there, and the only people that are going to really stumble upon it or watch it are the people that already like what I'm doing or are aware of my walkthroughs. And it's a shame because, you know, a lot of YouTube is about being first, a lot of YouTube is about who you know, and it's exciting, that race, to get it up before there's a ton of content. And just because of where I live, I'm immediately, you know, that's equivalent of the guy with the starting pistol shooting me in the fucking leg to start the race. You know, I'm doomed from the beginning, and it's just a bit of a shame, so I'm kind of disappointed in that, but it's just how it works, I suppose. But once you move into this room, there's going to be a lovely cutscene of us taking this dude out. But I'm going to trim it because, you know, it's just how I roll and it helps me when it comes to various things. But as per usual, people, thanks for watching. I hope the guide's helping. I hope you're finding it entertaining. And if you're new and you've subscribed, you're a beast, you're a legend, you're a god among men. If you comment on my stuff, if you watch all my stuff, if you're like the silent observer that follows me and helps me, I love you, man. You keep this channel going, and it's fully appreciated. And I don't say it enough because I put a lot of videos up and I hate to repeat myself, but I'm indebted to each and every one of you. So, you take care now.